The sirens split the night like knives. Red and blue lights flickered across the glittering glass towers of the city, but inside the penthouse of Ares Global Holdings, everything was collapsing. On the marble floor lay Alexander Ares, the youngest billionaire CEO the business world had ever worshipped, and now the man they whispered would not live to see another sunrise. Blood trickled from the corner of his mouth as doctors swarmed around him. Oxygen masks pressed. Chest compressions slammed against his ribs. One shouted numbers. Another called for more adrenaline. But the monitor's flatline screamed louder than all of them. Time of death. No, his assistant, trembling, shoved the doctor's arm. You don't declare him dead. He's Alexander Ares. He doesn't die. But the truth was merciless. For the first time in his empire-building life, power could buy him nothing. Through the glass wall of the penthouse, dozens of executives, relatives, and so-called friends gathered like vultures, their murmurs low but eager. They weren't praying for his survival. They were calculating. If the king fell tonight, which snake would wear his crown tomorrow? And then, through the crack of the heavy oak doors, slipped in someone who didn't belong. Barefoot. Hair tangled. Clothes torn. A girl carrying nothing but a plastic bag of collected cans that clinked as she stumbled inside. A homeless girl. The guards should have stopped her. The doctors should have thrown her out. But her wild, desperate voice froze them. Wait, don't give up on him. Her eyes burned with a kind of madness. Or maybe it was faith. The lead doctor snapped at her. Get her out. This is no place for beggars. His heart hasn't given up, she shouted, shoving past the wall of professionals. You're just too blind to see it. Gasps rippled through the room. Executives sneered. The assistants whispered in disgust. But no one dared touch her as she dropped to her knees beside Alexander. The girl's gaze locked onto his pale lips, his motionless chest. Something inside her clenched tight, not pity, not fear, but an unshakable conviction. She bit her own wrist. Hard. Blood welled up instantly. Crimson drops against her dirt-stained skin. And then she pressed it to his lips. Drink, please, just a little. Live. Fight back. Her voice cracked, but her tears refused to fall. The doctor shouted again, trying to pull her away. But before they could, the monitor beeped. Once. Twice. Then a steady rhythm began to pulse. The room erupted. The assistants froze. The doctors gaped at the impossible. And Alexander Ares, the man declared dead 5 minutes ago, coughed. Weakly. Violently. His chest rose with a strangled breath, as if his body had just been dragged from the bottom of the ocean. The homeless girl pressed a trembling hand to his cheek. Relief surged through her veins. You're back, she whispered. I knew you weren't gone. His lashes fluttered open. Those infamous cold, storm-gray eyes that had terrified boardrooms and dismantled rivals, fixed on the girl who didn't belong. And for the first time in his life, the King of Steel looked lost. Who? His voice was broken glass, fragile and raw. Who are you? Her lips parted, but before she could answer, the room exploded in chaos. Security lunged for her. Executives began barking questions, and the doctors scrambled to stabilize him. But through it all, Alexander's gaze never left hers. Not his assistant. Not his so-called family. Not even the machines keeping him alive. Just her. The girl who had nothing, no name, no fortune, no place, had just stolen the heartbeat of the richest man alive. And as they dragged her away, Alexander's voice rasped out, hoarse but commanding. Don't touch her. Every head snapped toward him. The monitors still beeped, proof of his fragile resurrection. And in that charged silence, one truth became undeniable. The Empire had failed to save its king, but a nameless girl had brought him back. The room didn't breathe. Every eye was locked on Alexander Ares, the man who had just returned from the dead, and the girl who had dragged him back. The doctors should have cheered. The executives should have praised the miracle. But instead, suspicion hung thick in the air. How could a homeless girl succeed where the city's best surgeons had failed? Sir, she contaminated the procedure. One doctor stammered. But Alexander's hoarse command cut like steel. I said, don't touch her. The guards froze mid-step. The homeless girl, trembling, wide-eyed, could only clutch her bitten wrist, still bleeding. The metallic taste of fear filled her mouth. She'd acted on instinct. Now, she realized what she'd done. The richest man alive was staring at her as though she'd just rewritten fate. Everyone leave, he rasped, struggling upright. Sir, you need out. His voice cracked, but the authority behind it was unshakable. One by one, the room emptied, resentment dripping from every heel that clicked against marble. Executives glared at her, whispering poison. A street rat touching him, disgraceful. The doctors shook their heads, muttering about impossible biology. And then it was silence. Only the beeping monitor. Only his ragged breath. Only her. The girl hesitated. I should run before they throw me in jail. But when she turned toward the door, his voice pinned her in place. What's your name? Her throat tightened. Nobody had asked her that in years. Not since she lost her home. Not since people decided homeless was identity enough. Lena, she whispered. Alexander's gaze, storm gray and unreadable, fixed on her like a brand. Lena, he repeated, as though engraving it into memory. Why did you do it? Her lips trembled. Because no one else would. Silence. For a moment, the skyscraper outside faded, the city lights vanished, and it was only the two of them. A man who had everything and lost it in a heartbeat, and a girl who had nothing yet gave everything in one drop of blood. But reality slammed back. Alexander winced, clutching his chest. Lena instinctively reached out. He caught her wrist. The warmth of his hand startled her, not cruel, not dismissive. Fragile, trembling. His eyes softened. Barely. You saved me. Her chest constricted. Don't thank me. They won't forgive me for it. As if summoned by her words, the door burst open again. His cousin, Victor Aries, swept in with a venomous smile. Well, well. The king rises again. What a miracle. His gaze slid to Lena, dripping disdain. And performed by a stray dog. How fitting. Alexander's expression hardened. Leave her out of this. Victor smirked. Oh, I wouldn't dream of it. You see, rumors spread quickly. The shareholders already want explanations. How do you suppose they'll react when they learn the Empire's heir was saved not by doctors, but by, he gestured mockingly at Lena. A beggar bleeding into your mouth? Lena flinched. Heat rose to her cheeks, shame gnawing at her. But Alexander's voice thundered, weak yet commanding. Get out, Victor. Victor's smirk deepened. Of course, cousin. Rest well. We'll see how long your stray survives in your gilded cage. The door slammed shut. Lena's hands shook. He's right. I don't belong here. If they find out what I did. You're not leaving. His voice was firm, despite his frailty. Her head snapped toward him. You can't keep me here. I'll be hunted, blamed. You gave me back my heartbeat. His gaze was fire and ice. Now it belongs to you. Her breath caught. She wanted to deny it, to run. But the way his words wrapped around her, not like a vow, but like chains of fate, terrified her more than any threat outside. The monitor beeped steadily, proof of his return. Yet Lena felt the danger had only just begun. Because saving him hadn't freed her. It had bound them both. The city glittered beyond the penthouse windows, 1,000 lights pulsing against the dark sky. Yet inside, the air was heavy, suffocating. Lena stood stiff near the door, arms wrapped around herself as if that could shield her from the stares, the whispers, the weight of Alexander Aries' presence. He lay propped against silk pillows, pale but unmistakably alive, his storm-gray eyes locked on her like she was the only anchor tethering him to this world. And she hated it. I should go, she murmured, avoiding his gaze. Your cousin was right. People like me don't belong here. His voice, still raspy but laced with steel, cut through the silence. People like you saved my life when everyone else stood by and watched. Lena's throat tightened. If only he knew what it cost me. She remembered the way the guards looked at her, as if she'd committed a crime. She remembered Victor's threat, his promise that she wouldn't survive in Alexander's world. And yet, this man, this titan who had just stared death in the face, spoke to her with a kind of reverence that unsettled her more than hate ever could. "I didn't save you for gratitude," she whispered. "Then why?" His eyes narrowed, searching hers like he could rip the truth from her soul. Her chest burned. She wanted to scream that she didn't know, that she acted because something inside her refused to watch another life snuffed out. That maybe, for once, she wanted to prove she wasn't worthless. Instead, she said nothing. A long silence stretched. Only the hum of the machines filled the air. And then, Alexander shifted, swinging his legs off the bed. "Wait." Lena moved forward instinctively. "You can't stand. You'll tear your stitches." But he ignored her, gripping the edge of the nightstand for balance. His body shook with the effort, yet his gaze stayed fixed on her. "Look at me, Lena." His voice was low, dangerous. "I've fought wars in boardrooms. I've crushed men who tried to destroy me. But tonight," he paused, his chest heaving, "I lost to death. And it was you who dragged me back." Her pulse raced. His nearness was overwhelming. His scent, clean linen mixed with faint blood, was too real. "You don't understand," she said, forcing her voice steady. "You have an empire. I have nothing. Being near you, it'll destroy me." He leaned closer, his breath ghosting against her ear. "Being near me might destroy you, but leaving me will destroy me." Her knees weakened. For a terrifying second, she almost believed him, almost forgot the world outside waiting to devour her. But reality clawed back. "This is madness," she whispered, tearing herself from his grip. His expression darkened, but not with anger, with something far more dangerous. Possession. The door creaked open then, breaking the spell. His assistant, Amelia, entered with a file pressed tightly to her chest. Her eyes flicked to Lena, narrowing. "Sir, the board demands your presence tomorrow. Rumors of your death are spreading fast. Victor's already moving pieces." Alexander straightened, regaining the mask of the ruthless CEO. But his hand brushed against Lena's as he took the file, a silent reminder. "I haven't let go." Amelia's gaze sharpened. "And her? She stays," Alexander said without hesitation. Lena's heart dropped. She was no longer a savior. She was a prisoner gilded in silk. After Amelia left, Lena turned to him, panic rising. "You can't just decide that. I have a life." His lips curved, humorless. "Do you? On the streets? Hungry, unseen, discarded? That's not life. I'm giving you one." Her chest ached. She wanted to scream, to run, to hate him for binding her with his words. But instead, tears stung her eyes. "Why me?" she whispered. He stepped closer, so close she could see the raw vulnerability buried beneath his steel. "Because when the world failed me, you didn't." Her breath hitched. For a fleeting second, she saw not the billionaire, not the ruthless CEO, but a man stripped bare, clinging to the one person who had reached into the void for him. And that terrified her more than anything. Before she could respond, the penthouse phone rang, shrill and urgent. Alexander answered, his jaw tightening. When he hung up, his face was carved from ice. "What happened?" Lena asked, dread coiling in her gut. His eyes flicked to hers, storm gray turning to thunder. "Victor just called an emergency board meeting," he said, "to declare me unfit to lead." And then, softer, his gaze searing into her. "They'll come after me. And they'll come after you." The boardroom was a battlefield. Alexander sat at the head of the obsidian table, his presence weakened by his recent collapse, yet his gaze colder and sharper than ever. Lena stood behind him, out of place amid the suits and diamonds, her second-hand dress clashing against the glittering wealth. Victor's voice filled the room, oily and self-assured. "Gentlemen, ladies, what we have here is not leadership. We have a man who cheated death in the most questionable way imaginable. And worse," his smirk curved like a knife, "we have a witness." All eyes turned to Lena. She stiffened, her pulse pounding. Victor leaned forward, dropping photographs onto the table. Grainy images, her kneeling by Alexander's body, pressing her wrist to his lips, blood staining his mouth. Gasps rippled through the board. Disgusting. What witchcraft? This is insanity. Victor's voice sliced through the noise. She is nothing but a street vagrant who contaminated the CEO's body. Do you want this empire tied to her? Lena's chest constricted. She wanted to speak, but her voice stuck in her throat. Alexander's hand slammed the table. Enough. The room froze. His voice was low, lethal. If not for her, you'd all be fighting over ashes. She brought me back when you, every last one of you, stood useless. A heavy silence fell, yet behind it, doubt festered. And then Victor played his final card. He slid another file across the table. Are you so sure, cousin? Do you even know who she really is? Alexander's brow furrowed. He hesitated just a beat. Long enough for everyone to notice. Lena's stomach dropped. Victor's smirk widened. Her name isn't Lena. That's just what she tells the streets. Her real name, he tapped the file, is Elena Carter. Ring a bell? Daughter of Marcus Carter. The same Marcus who nearly destroyed your company 10 years ago before mysteriously vanishing. The room exploded in whispers. Lena's breath hitched. The world tilted. She hadn't heard that name in years. She had buried it, erased it, sworn it dead the night her father's empire collapsed and he disappeared, leaving her to rot. Her knees trembled. He dug it up, he exposed me. Alexander's gaze snapped to her. Cold. Searching. Betrayed. Is it true? His voice was razor-edged. Her lips parted, but no words came. She saw the board sneers, Victor's triumph, and Alexander's storm-gray eyes hardening by the second. Yes, Victor answered for her, triumph dripping from every syllable. The girl who saved you is the daughter of the man who tried to ruin you. Blood calls to blood, cousin. She didn't save you out of kindness. She's here to finish what her father started. No. The word tore from Lena's throat, raw and desperate. I didn't, Alexander. I swear I didn't know you back then. I didn't care who you were. Her voice cracked. I only wanted to save you. The board buzzed louder. Some laughed. Some scoffed. None believed. Alexander stood slowly, his height and authority casting a shadow over the room. His gaze burned into Lena's. Get out, he said. Her chest caved. Alexander. Now. His voice left no room for protest. Tears burned her eyes, but she forced herself to walk, every step heavier than chains. The board's laughter followed her out, echoing in her ears like knives. As the door shut, Victor leaned toward Alexander with a wolf's grin. You see? You've been played by the daughter of your greatest enemy. And now she'll be your empire's downfall. But Alexander didn't respond. His fists clenched, jaw tight, storm raging behind his eyes. Because even as doubt gnawed at him, even as betrayal poisoned his veins, one truth haunted him still. When the world had failed him, it was her blood that brought him back. And that truth refused to die. Rain hammered the city, like shattered glass. Lena stood at the edge of the street, soaked through, clutching the thin jacket around her trembling frame. The skyscraper loomed behind her, its glass walls still glowing with boardroom light, as though mocking her exile. She could still hear Victor's laugh in her head, still see Alexander's face, hard, unreadable, yet burning with betrayal. Get out. The words carved into her like knives. She had bled for him, saved him, stood by him when no one else dared. And yet, in a single breath, he had cast her aside, as if everything between them had been nothing but smoke. Her knees weakened. She stumbled into the shadows of the street, where the neon bled across puddles like broken dreams. Stupid, she whispered, her voice cracking. You knew you didn't belong in his world. Why did you think he could ever choose you? But even as she tried to convince herself, the ache in her chest deepened. Because it wasn't just about saving him anymore. Somewhere along the way, she had fallen. Deep, reckless, unstoppable. And now she was nothing again. Inside the skyscraper, Alexander stood alone in his office. The board had long dispersed, but their whispers lingered like smoke. Elena Carter, daughter of Marcus Carter. He gripped the edge of his desk until his knuckles whitened. The memory of her wide, tear-bright eyes burned in his mind. Her plea, "I only wanted to save you," echoed, raw and desperate. But Victor's words sliced deeper. Blood calls to blood. Could it be true? Had she been planted, sent as a weapon of sympathy, a final card Marcus had left behind to destroy him from within? Logic told him yes. His heart screamed no. He closed his eyes. Images crashed over him. Her laughter in the hospital room, the warmth of her hand against his, the fire in her when she stood up to him. And, most haunting of all, the moment between life and death, when her blood had become his lifeline. If she were truly an enemy, why would she have given so much? Alexander's fist slammed into the desk. A picture frame toppled and shattered. His reflection glared back at him from the shards, fractured and cruel. The rain didn't stop. Neither did Lena's tears. She found herself on the steps of the abandoned shelter where she had slept before fate had dragged her into Alexander's orbit. The cracked walls welcomed her back like an old punishment. She sank to the floor, pressing her forehead against her knees. Her voice shook as she whispered into the silence. "I wasn't lying, Alexander. Not to you. Not ever." Her words broke, scattering in the hollow space. But no one was there to believe them. Back in the penthouse suite, Alexander poured himself a drink. The amber liquid trembled in his glass as his hand shook. He had never been a man of doubt, but tonight, every certainty had been shattered. The rain blurred the skyline beyond the glass walls. For the first time in years, the city he ruled felt foreign, untouchable. And in the midst of it, he saw her face again. Not the daughter of Marcus Carter. Not the ghost of an enemy. Just Lena, the girl who had chosen him when the whole world turned away. His chest tightened. But before he could reach for his phone, before he could decide whether to believe her, his office door creaked open. Victor. He strolled in with a predator's grin. "I told you, cousin. She's poison. You're blinded by her pretty little act, but don't worry, I'll clean up your mess." Alexander's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" Victor chuckled, swirling his glass. "She won't trouble us again. By tomorrow, no one will even remember her name." The drink slipped from Alexander's hand, shattering against the floor. His blood went cold. "Victor," he growled, voice trembling with a fury he hadn't unleashed in years. "What did you do?" Victor only smirked wider. Across the city, in the dripping shelter, Lena suddenly felt a prickle at the back of her neck. A shadow moved in the doorway. Heavy footsteps. And a voice, low, menacing, unfamiliar. "Found you." Her heart froze. The shelter door slammed shut behind the intruder. Lena's pulse thundered in her ears as the stranger's shadow stretched across the cracked floor. His eyes gleamed with cruel amusement. "Victor's man." Her breath hitched. "Why are you here?" The thug smirked. "Orders. You've gotten in the way of important people. My job's to make sure you disappear." Lena's back hit the wall. She clutched the rusted pipe beside her, her only weapon. Her body trembled, but her eyes blazed. "I won't make it easy for you." Across the city, Alexander tore through the rain-slick streets, his car engine screaming. His knuckles whitened around the wheel. Victor's smug words repeated in his head. "She won't trouble us again." Fear like he'd never known before twisted his gut. He had faced death, betrayal, billion-dollar losses, but the thought of losing her was unbearable. "She's not my enemy," he growled to the storm. "She's mine." Inside the shelter, the thug lunged. Lena swung the pipe with all her strength. It cracked against his shoulder, sending him staggering, but not down. He snarled. "Little rat." He caught her arm, yanking her close. The pipe clattered to the floor. His grip tightened around her throat. Lena's vision blurred, spots of light bursting. Her nails clawed at his wrist as air slipped away. Her mind screamed one name, Alexander. And then, The door burst open. "Get your hands off her." Alexander's voice ripped through the room like thunder. He was across the floor in seconds, slamming into the thug with a fury that was almost feral. They crashed into the wall, fists flying, blood splattering the peeling paint. Lena collapsed, gasping, clutching her throat as tears blurred her sight. But she could still see him, her CEO, her impossible savior, fighting like a man possessed. "Alex," she choked, her voice hoarse. His head snapped toward her, just for a moment. That moment was enough. The thug slammed a fist into his ribs, forcing a grunt of pain. But Alexander only grew more vicious. With one final blow, he sent the man sprawling unconscious. He turned, chest heaving, rain and sweat dripping down his face. His eyes locked on Lena, and for the first time, all his walls broke. He was on his knees beside her in an instant, pulling her trembling form into his arms. "Lena," his voice cracked, raw, desperate. "God, he swallowed, pressing his forehead against hers. "I almost lost you." Her tears soaked his shirt as she whispered, broken. "Why? Why did you believe them? I never wanted to hurt you." His arms tightened. "I was a fool. I let the past blind me. But when I thought you were gone, when I thought Victor had taken you from me," his voice shattered, "that was when I knew. You're not my enemy. You're the only reason I'm alive." Her breath hitched. "You mean that?" He cupped her face, his thumb brushing away her tears. His eyes, once cold steel, burned with a fierce tenderness. "Lena, I mean every damn word. You gave me your blood when the world gave me nothing. You're the only truth I've ever had." For a heartbeat, the storm outside seemed to still. And then his lips were on hers, fierce, aching, desperate. A kiss that tasted of rain, salt, and redemption. A vow, sealed not with promises but with fire. But the moment shattered as slow clapping echoed from the doorway. Victor stood there, smiling like the devil himself. "Well," he drawled, stepping over his unconscious thug. "What a touching reunion." Alexander surged to his feet, shielding Lena behind him. His voice was a growl. "This ends tonight." Victor's smirk widened.
"Yes."
"Yes, it does." His hand slipped into his coat and came out with a gun. Lena gasped. Alexander froze, every muscle tensed, his body still as shield. The storm roared louder, rattling the broken windows, as if the city itself held its breath. Victor raised the gun, eyes glittering with malice. "Goodbye, cousin." And then, the shot rang out. End of Chapter 6. Fire This finale delivers. Immediate life or death stakes. Lena attacked, Alexander racing to save her. Alexander's redemption through action and confession. A powerful emotional climax with love declared and sealed. Ends with a gunshot cliffhanger, keeping suspense alive.